Moshe, you also had a question about the Super Mario effect.
Mark Robber had what he called the Super Mario effect. The idea is capitalizing on that, ability to make people comfortable with failing so they can learn and use, and I sort of broke it down between CD1, meaning the epic meaning being that they're realizing their own learning and self-improvement, is the epic meaning accomplishment, that even though they're failing, it's the next step in their learning, and empowerment in that it's the failures aren't debilitating, they're actually empowering because they're learning from it. So my question is, are those forced, or are those accurate? And in any case, how can we capitalize on that effect to get users used to failing when it's implicit gamification?
Yeah, I actually disagree with the idea with with Mark Robber on why he calls this the Super Mario effect, because he has a definition here. Let me see if I remove the caption. Shifting the focus from failing to pits to saving the princess, stick with the task and learn more. So yeah, the whole thing about the Super Mario effect in his quite prolific and famous TED Talk is that, hey, the reason the Super Mario effect is that even though you keep failing, you're not bothered by the failure because you're thinking about the goals, like saving the princess. And so you stick with the task because it's about reaching the goals as opposed to you moping about your failures. And he talks about some really interesting studies about, I remember he had like a little mini game that people played, and the mini games that people played. And then it's like, hey, if constantly they feel like the language is like closer to their goals and they keep trying, okay, here it is, no penalty, minus 5 points. So he had people play a variety of, one specific game that requires, I think, some skill and problem solving. And there's two types of folks. One are people who they just do it, they can keep trying. And then there's no penalties, you just keep doing it. And he said that, I think based on this chart, if I remember correctly, if there's no penalty, people try 12 times on average, and then 68% of them completed the challenge. But then he had another mechanic where when you join, you arbitrarily just have like, I think 100 points, let's say, and every time you lose 5 points. And so here, people only tried 5 times on average, only 52% completed it. So basically what it means is that it's actually core drive 8 design, right? If you feel like every time you lose, you actually lost something, even though it's arbitrarily just given to you, you don't want to try as much. Like CD8, you feel the pain, you want to give up. But if you don't feel the pain, if you don't feel like there's penalty, and you actually, it's all about just trying to reach the goal, then you actually just try a lot more times, which is kind of intuitive, right? Do something and you're punished. You feel punished, then you stop. But if you don't feel punished, then you keep going. And I think a lot of talk is about how we can, it says trick your brain, right? You trick your brain that you didn't lose anything, you didn't fail, you were closer to the goal. Now, the reason why I am not a fan of calling this Super Mario effect is because it actually is contradictory to an analogy I constantly use, which is, how many people play Super Mario, this original, and hopefully many of you have played this before, because of saving that princess, because of beating that game, and one of the analogies I talk about intrinsic motivation, not extrinsic motivation, is that there's a lot of people that I know that have fond memories of playing this Nintendo game, Super Mario, but very, very few of them have actually beaten the game. I have never beaten this game, actually. Very, very few people actually got to the final stage, beat the boss, and got the princess. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because by playing the game, you're winning, right? You enjoy it and you win because you play, not because you save the princess or you beat it. I don't think many people, when they're playing the game, they're actively thinking about the princess. So this is why I don't necessarily like his definition. This the game Super Bar has so many things to talk about, so many lessons that we can learn. And the one lesson he says that's called the quote unquote Super Mario effect is that you're focused on the princess. And that's why I don't care about failing. And I personally think there's much better lessons. Like, again, intrinsic fun is more important than the goal, stuff like that. So yeah, so I don't like the term itself, but yeah, I do. But I think it honestly is just a CD2 and CD8 type of design. And that ties to something called the winner effect, which is when kids learn, and this is very intuitive too, right? When the kids do something and they feel like they won, they have this dopamine, they have this chemistry in the head, and makes them feel confident, makes them want to do it more. If they feel like they lose, then they just don't want to do it that much. And then they'll think, I'm not talented in this, and they'll switch to something else. Actually, Mark Diaz has a good speech about that. He has a cool TED Talk.
Don't forget to watch the next episode. I'll see you there.